Thanks for staying with us here on TVC Breakfast. It's now time to look at what the newspapers are reporting this morning. And I have first with me is the Nation newspaper with the screaming headline, Tinubu excited, experts optimistic over 3.46% third quarter GDP growth. Non-oil sector is key driver. More should be done to boost real sector. Why federal government is borrowing by Edun Bagudu, FRS boss. Forensic audit of NNPCL is 8 trillion, NNPCL 8 trillion naira debt claim ongoing. Now, Southeast holds 268,000 IDPs in 158 camps. Rivers, a Maole-led assembly moves to repeal Commission of Inquiry Law 1999. Above the masthead, legal giant okays Supreme Court voiding of National Lottery Act. Shetima Abbas, First Lady, intensify push for gender equality. Federal government requests MDAs to accept youth corps members. Next is the Guardian newspaper. GDP defies inflation shocks as more Nigerians take informal jobs. Now you can see the infographics of economic overview talking about the labor force and unemployment, balance of trade, gross domestic product, debt and inflation, etc. Federal government defends borrowing as NNPCL, FRS customs surpass 2024 targets. Minimum wage, cross-river workers embark on strike, reject government's plea. You see that on page 7. NNPC defends output amid confusion over oil production data. Edwin Clark decries Rivers' political crisis, fault lawmakers' defection. NBA slams EFCC boss for accusing lawyers of money laundering. Despite challenges, Nigeria's economy grows by 3.46%. Discos record 54.2 billion naira revenue shortfall in September. Sit at home. Schools closed over gunmen attacks in Anambra. Next is Blueprint newspaper with 3.46% GDP growth in third quarter. Nigeria's economy on course. Presidency. Unemployment drops by 4.3%. National Bureau of Statistics. Growth driven by agri, industry, service, others. And then Port Harcourt, Warri refineries to be fully privatized. That's according to Presidency. NUPRC confirms 1.8 million barrels per day NNPCL oil production figures. The Shetima seeks tech-driven strategy to combat terrorism, cybercrime. We borrow based on your approvals, federal government tells National Assembly. And then IHR to NACON set up committee to monitor 2023 Hajj refund. On the bottom strip, education, finance, top Radar's 682 billion naira, Plateau's 471.11 billion naira 2025 budgets. The Daily Times is next. Nigeria's GDP grows 3.46% in third quarter 2024, boosted by services sector. INEC counters PDP governors on rigging claims. Atiku's camp accuses Bwala of betrayal for personal gain. VP Shetima advocates tech-driven approach to tackle terrorism. And then above the nameplate, Dele Momodu exposes $23 million bribe in 2023 primaries. And on the bottom strip, FCTA approves over 900 million naira for digitization of educational system. Nigeria News Direct is next. Nigeria's GDP grows by 3.46% in third quarter 2024, driven by services sector, as Tinubu assures of greater economic output. Oil GDP records slowest growth in 2024. Unemployment rate slows to 4.3% in second quarter 2024. Nigeria faces increased economic risks amid rising inflation, poverty. That's according to reports. Oil production statistics. NUPRC quoted figures for average production, not peak production. NNPCL clarifies. Midterm anniversary. We will achieve in 4 years what others achieve in 8 years, Governor Adeleke pledges. Recapitalization. CBN extends deadline for BDCs to June 2025. Why federal government still borrowing despite increase in revenue? That's Edo. And Lagos 2025 budget scales second region. And then New Telegraph is next. Tinubu, third quarter GDP growth indicates recovery from reforms, unintended effects. Mounting debt burden will borrow based on your approvals. Federal government tackles National Assembly. 2027, PDP or not, huge opposition alliance imminent. Ugo Chinyere. Banks, COIs raise 2.7 trillion naira from capital markets. SEC DG. EMTL expansion boosts federal government's year-on-year earnings to 166.43 billion naira. And then on the bottom strip, new malaria vaccine shows high protection in trial study. Last with me here is the Leadership newspaper. 16 days of activism. World leaders worry over Nigeria's GBV rate. Nigeria needs 1 trillion naira to tackle menace. That's according to World Bank and the United Nations. Bandits kill 32 in fresh Benue attack. You see that on page 6. 20 missing in Delta boat mishap. 160,000 children living with HIV. NACA. Women protest over 262 husbands, children in prison. And then Northern Youth gave ACF 7 days to reinstate chairman. That's about it with me, Theophilus.
This Nigerian newspaper says, why we oppose rising cases of violence against women, girls, Reps Speaker Abbas petitions IGP, leads colleagues on protest work against GBV. Federal government urges varsities to set up sexual assault referral units. FCTA approves 995 million naira for laptops in schools to procure farm inputs for dry season farming. Demand notice on payment of CFO bills in FCT. Shetima seeks adoption of tech-driven strategy to fight terrorism. Others. Tinubu commends 3.46% Q3 GDP growth figure. First News says, why I avoided having a boyfriend, according to Wesley University's best graduating students. Nigeria's borrowing dilemma. Finance Minister pushes for more loans despite surging revenues. Nearly 500 state-owned vehicles missing. Edo new government cries out. Customs sees 556 million naira worth of contraband. Arrests 34 illegal migrants. NNPCL targets 2 million barrels per day by end of 2024. The Nigerian Tribune says, Senators query federal government borrowing. Tinubu's ministers justify plans. Presidency assures a better economy as latest GDP report indicates growth. Predicts 2025 rebasing of economy will bring prosperity. FCTA releases list of CFL defaulters in Abuja. Over 1 million violent crimes perpetrated against women in 2023, according to UNODC. At HID Awolowo Foundation webinar, federal government committed to gender equity advancement, says Shetima. We move now to the Hope newspaper. Ghost workers. Federal government goes after employees receiving salaries abroad. We're already tracking their movement with IPPIS investigations ongoing, says HOS. Endo farmer arrested for beating 2 suspected thieves to death. Let's unite to combat gender-based violence, says Mrs. Tinubu. Some female ministers neglect husbands for ministry trips, according to Mike Bamiloye. Daily Independent says, acting PDP chair asks INEC to fill 27 Rivers Assembly vacant seats. Pro-Wike lawmakers have lost their seats, Clark insists. No disparity in crude oil production figures, says NNPC. Nigeria unveils plans to launch 4 satellites. Army seeks Senate support to secure Nigeria. 1.6 million Nigerians having HIV patients receiving treatment, says NACA DG. Q3 2024, Tinubu assures of stronger economic future as GDP grows 3.46%. The Punch newspaper says Lakurawa, federal government plans more troops as sect spreads in northwest states, procure vehicles, others for troops. Sect spreads to north central. TDS plans more military bases. States tackle NNPCL over extra 1 trillion naira subsidy payments. Jackpot workers on federal government payroll resign amid probe. Labor protest, NBS drop in unemployment rate reports. Customs sees 556 million naira contraband in Ogun State. Daily Trust says villagers flee as gunmen kill many in Benue State. Tinubu didn't seek National Assembly approval to buy presidential jets as Abaribe. Service sector raises GDP by 3.46% in Q3. Northern lawyers condemn attempts to remove CCT chairman illegally. The Platform Times says Port Harcourt, Kaduna, other refineries to be fully privatized, says presidency. NAF airstrikes destroy terrorist food depot, kill scores in Lake Chad. Presidential candidate paid 774 delegates $23 million in 2023 election, says Dele Momodu. Police parade 523 suspected kidnappers, cattle rustlers, car snatchers, others in Kaduna. And finally, on Sporting Life newspaper, Galatasaray can't afford Osimhen, says Vural. West Ham joins race for Lukman. Slovia Bratislava versus AC Milan. Chukwueze gets chance to break duck. Manchester United plot January move for Boniface. New Nottingham Forest contract are enough to get huge wage rise. EFN hails Toby Amuson after Hall of Fame induction. Chelsea joins Arsenal in 115 million euro Isaac chase. Of course, we have this and many more in the Sporting Life newspaper this morning.
Well, I believe that our audience are up to date this morning. It's so many things to chew on the newspapers, for review. It's quite interesting, developments, especially with the 3.46%, which is the Nigeria's GDP growth rather in third quarter 2024, dominating the papers. According to reports, they said it's driven by services sector. So the president, assuring Nigerians of greater economic output because of the economic reforms, which others are saying that, listen, this thing is biting, especially following the Eagle Square Declaration, as some people love to call it. The first subsidy is gone of a thing. Even though we knew that it was going to go at a point, we called for it. We clamored for it.
It was a unanimous decision of everyone.
Absolutely.
Even the presidential candidates during campaign said they were going to remove subsidy on the first day of office.
Three of them. Four of them, or even most of them. United on. They were unanimous about. We are just going to take this off. In fact, the presidential candidate of the Labour Party said it's just going to go even before his inauguration. It was just like it's not going to stay any day after his swearing in. So then we see the attendance ripple effect of the removal of the first subsidy. When Nigerians are crying and all of that. I can remember coming to the office this morning, the driver was saying, I can't imagine rice now 100,000 naira. Some are even saying it's way over 100,000 naira.
It depends on the kind of rice you're buying.
Yeah, but we have local farming, and all of that. But that also will be coming up in the course of our conversation because of the Nigeria-Brazil Pact, in agricultural sector. So talking about the 3.46%, we have the oil GDP recording slowest growth in 2024 because most of this money, so to speak, driving the economy are essentially not from oil sector. We're getting it from different angles. Yes, talk about the revenue, internal revenue, generated revenue, customs, agriculture, etc. Unemployment, which we talked about, has slowed down to 4.3% in second quarter, third quarter 2024, and Nigeria definitely still faces increased economic risks and rising inflation and poverty.
Well, it's quite important. It's quite good that we're actually looking at food production today, the Nigeria-Brazil Pact, but we should also get to a point where the government gets really interested in sectors like, first of all, agriculture, entertainment sector, sports, and all of that. Some of these sectors that you think in the past was nothing. Tech is growing now.
Yeah.
If there's some form of attention given to these sectors, it will further enhance Nigeria's capacity. Young people will go into these sectors.
Yeah.
And when we started talking about agriculture, it looked like a far-reaching endeavor. But now a lot of young people are going into agriculture. There are people moving into the hinterlands, doing what they need to do. Some even exporting Nigeria's food at their own, little corner and in their own way. So if we can increase capacity there, agriculture, entertainment, tech, sports, and all of that, these sectors, increase capacity there, put attention there, get sectors, get people to invest in these sectors, and you will see that the ripple effect will show on the economy. You know, the entertainment industry grew largely without government intervention, and see how it is right now. So imagine if government is coming into the entertainment sector, giving them policies, tax rebates that are favorable to the sector,
so that they can compete with the likes of
Hollywood, Bollywood, Gollywood. It will
all of the woods.
All the woods, yes. It will make a lot of sense because more Nigerian youths will gain employment there, and shockingly, many Nigerian youths in Nigeria are getting jobs abroad. They're getting jobs to do films from the United States, from UK, in Nigeria here. And they're shooting these films and sending it back there. And you see them in several film festivals, Tribeca Film Festival, Venice Film Festival, all of them. You see them in the film festivals. And so a lot of times you will not know they are Nigerians doing these things, shooting it at the back end. But they are Nigerians. They travel to these countries to do all of this. So if we put our eggs in everywhere, invest in these sectors, provide the enabling environment for them to thrive. Then we will have an increase we'll have a high employment rate, and then many Nigerians will be self-employed, doing their own thing and employing more Nigerians.
Absolutely. And the other one, which you read a little earlier, you're talking about the lady that came up with in the first class, right?
Yes.
Western University said she decided not to have
boyfriends.
But hey, we protest. Are we saying that men are distractions?
Well,
we just have to go. Don't worry.
Let's look at